Hey guys, Comfy Noodle here. Today I'm going to give you a new perspective on NoFap. This perspective is going to be unique. It's going to be on something that you never heard before. I'm going to talk about the relationship of operant conditioning and masturbation. This is going to turn NoFap into a more complete solution. But first, we need to understand what is NoFap. I know it's trending these days, but for the people that aren't aware of the specific details, let me explain what NoFap is real quick. A quick summary would be that there are people that feel like masturbating is impacting their life in a negative way, and they think that their solution to fix that problem is to stop fapping. The people in the NoFap community found out that there is a correlation between pleasuring yourself and your mental state. For example, it can impact your motivation level, your energy level, your confidence, and your mental clarity. The first three factors are really simple to understand, right? Motivation level means how motivated are you to do things. Are you unmotivated and always feel like everything is meaningless? This can even be for things that you used to enjoy and now not so anymore. Or do you always have passion for everything you do? Energy level refers to if you are tired or energetic. Confidence level equals to how confident you are. But mental clarity is a thing that most people talk less about, despite being the worst consequence. And no, I'm not talking about whether you are woke or not. I'm talking about if you feel like you have brain fog. I'm referring to if your brain can work like it's supposed to be able to. So do you feel your brain is clouded or unclouded? If most of your answers for each factor goes toward the negative side, people in the NoFap community would suggest that your problem is likely the result of over-pleasuring yourself. The reason they came up with this conclusion comes from the idea that self-pleasuring is impacting your dopamine receptors in a negative manner, and it also lowers your testosterone level. I won't go in depth into chemical aspect of the brain regarding to NoFap because that's not what we are here for today. Today, I'm going to talk about operant conditioning. Most people that haven't studied psychology probably won't know what this term means. And don't worry, it's not hard to understand. Basically, operant conditioning refers to the learning technique that our brain uses that is based on reward and punishment. So this means that after getting a reward for something that you did, the chances that you repeat this action will increase. It doesn't need to be a big reward. Anything that makes you feel good can count as a reward. This can go from a simple compliment, a boost in self-esteem, a reduction in anxiety, and anything that is specific for yourself. On the other hand, for punishment, everything that is uncomfortable or more can count as a punishment. This can be receiving a negative feedback, doing something that's going to hurt your self-esteem, or doing something that's going to make you more anxious. You will naturally learn to avoid these actions since it's not making you happy. For example, in the background right now, I'm playing a gacha game and I'm opening packs. So whenever I receive a reward, for example, a good character, I'm more inclined to reproduce the behaviors of grinding in this game for more currency so that eventually I can do more roles. But if I were to get bad roles over and over again, I will consider spending my time into something else that I'm going to feel more rewarded. And I know there's going to be that one person in the comment that's going to say, well, that's not true. Gambling is very addictive. Once you start, you can't stop, even if you lose. Well, that's true for some people, but for most people, after a few losses, they know how to stop. In every case, there are extreme outliers. Now that you know what NoFap and operant conditioning is, there's one thing I need to talk about before we can start this video. According to my YouTube analytics, none of you guys that are watching this video right now are subscribed, and that's well because I barely have any subscribers to start off with. So if you want to be one of those motherfuckers bragging about who's here before 100k, then this is your time to get involved. So add a like with that and hit that notification button to know when it's the next time to start bragging about being a real OG subscriber. Now back with the video. I'm going to start with how I made this connection first. And yes, it's going to be worth listening to my story and not just to skip over to the part where I explain the interaction between NoFap and operant conditioning. You can even say that the way that I found the connection gives a stronger support to the topic of today's video. And maybe you will even relate to me in some ways. It's kinda hard to find a place to start. But I'll start with when I discovered NoFap. And to be more specifically, I'll start when I started doing NoFap. Look, I used to have a huge adult film addiction. I used to stay up all night watching women slurping some noodles. I would go to bed early because I couldn't control my powerful energy of desire, so I could go and entertain myself. This would start at 10 p.m. and sometimes end at 2 a.m. and even maybe up to 4 a.m. depending on how I felt that day. So since I can stop being an addict, you literally have zero excuses. Like, think about it. I would spend more time on adult films than most college students preparing for the exams. Anyways, my first experience of NoFap was a few years back. Not that far back though, it was actually just in 2018. During that time, I tried doing No Nut November. And as you guys expected, I passed. Okay, to be honest, that wasn't my first experience though, but it was the first time that I actually tried with a goal in mind. I would watch non-stop but not actually do anything. And when December hit, it was crazy. Damn, that was an amazing month. Did I feel the benefits while I was on NoFap? Well, yes and no. I only felt more energetic and alert, but not in a good way though. It was like either I was reserved or I was exploding. So on my second attempt of doing No Nut November, it was actually a lot easier. In 2019, I went 40 days clean. During that time, I was questioning if the small benefits were worth it. Because to be honest, positive effects were kinda fake. I felt like I had more energy, but it was also kinda weird. My mind felt clearer, but I kept forgetting things. It was like if all my energy was focused on the present and nothing else existed. It was hard for me to understand what was going on. Why would I feel so in the present while also forgetting things like it never happened? Like on many occasions, I would forget to do my assignments. I can't even remember if I received the paper to do it or not. Maybe my brain wasn't used to all this energy and it's taking time to adapt. That's quite possible. But in the meantime, I was thinking about something else too. That's quite interesting. Why is that there are some people still productive while also doing it? Then I thought about couples. Yes, I know not all couples are productive, but the type that I was thinking about were productive. My first thought was maybe since they can't do it all day, every day of the week, they were just not doing it over and over again. So it was quite balanced, right? 2 to 3 times per week seems quite reasonable, right? At that time it made sense for me, so I didn't think anything further. As time passed, around in January of 2020, I started doing another 40-day clean. This time, my homie and myself had the challenge. The loser had to give the other person a free skin in League of Legends. Yes, I did this challenge for a free League of Legends skins, but at the end, nobody admitted who lost first, so we kind of forget about that. After that period, I did it 2 to 3 times per week, and I still felt like shit, but I felt more in control of myself than when I was clean. This made me rethink about the people that did it around the same amount of time that I did, such as couples, and I tried to find the difference between what I did and what they did. I thought about the process that both parties used to reach the result. For myself, I opened the hub and I did it. Couples tended to have a more complicated procedure though. But my next thought is what's important for this video. I realized that how I felt before fapping would project how I felt in the following days. So I thought about the reasons that couples are usually more happy in doing it than a person that is doing it solo. So I considered that maybe whatever the person did before having a good time is maybe going to translate after the activity. And then I remembered about operant conditioning. Now let's talk about how operant conditioning is related to masturbation. And yes, since I'm a man, the things I'm going to talk about mainly apply for men. As humans, one of our main goals is to reproduce. This may not be as relevant in the present. With thousands of years of evolution, the desire to reproduce is what kept the human race alive. And that's not going to change with only a few hundred years of change. So we can safely say that we are still programmed to desire to reproduce. In the past, most men would need to prove that they are a good mating choice. They need to show that they're capable of taking care of their mate. So they had to display traits of strength, such as being a good hunter or being a good leader. So when men are able to prove those traits, they're more likely to be able to mate. Since they had to work hard to mate, their brain associated being strong to mating. This means that the brain of a man has been programmed in a way that suggests that sex is a reward to strive for. And since being strong is what was needed to receive this reward, the traits and actions that suggested of being a strong person became the promoted behavior. To put it simply, humans will repeat the behaviors and traits that give them a reward. And since masturbation is a way to fake the feeling of having sex, our brain associated masturbation as a reward. But the problem is that in today's world, it is too easy to get influenced into accomplishing our desire of sexual satisfaction. So it's really hard to not get lustful with all the beautiful women we see on social media. And since most people don't know about the consequences of abusing self-indulgence, then it's normal to want to have the maximum amount of pleasure and not think about more of it. At the start, for most of us, it started out as innocent. We listen to our body and feel happy that we can enjoy some good adult movies. But eventually, when we have a hard time, we think to ourselves, what can make our day better? And for a lot of us, the answer is porn. So we go to the internet, we forget about reality for a moment and we enjoy our time. But since masturbation is just a way to stimulate the feeling of having sex, our brain refers to what we just did as a reward. A reward to what? We got a reward by feeling bad on that day. And once you masturbate a few more times on days where you feel bad, your brain is starting to catch a pattern going on. It starts to think that feeling bad is the mental behavior you have to be able to achieve sexual pleasure. So now your brain is promoting this shitty feeling, thinking that it's your new survival method. And now that you feel even worse, so you do it even more often. So your brain starts thinking that it's working. Your brain is gonna think that the more you feel like shit, the more you're gonna get rewarded. So now that you trick your brain into thinking that you need to feel bad to get rewarded, you're pretty much trapped into a mental loop of sadness and depression. And when you're sad and depressed, you start feeling less motivated. So now you're satisfied with your reward and you don't want anything stopping you from getting more of it. You start to lose your motivation everywhere. After all, sexual pleasure is what our body thinks as the end goal. Men in the past would do everything to be able to reproduce. So since our mind thinks that way, it's normal that you start losing your motivation after reaching what the human mind thinks that it's the end goal. What's the point in doing more stuff if your brain thinks that it already achieved everything? So now that you lost your motivation, your brain thinks that you don't need energy anymore. So you start getting tired. After all, your brain is thinking that if you are motivated to do anything, why would you need energy anymore? So now that you're tired and unmotivated, your self-esteem will take some damage. You start losing confidence in yourself and don't know why. With a mixture of the three, your mind starts mudding up and you feel like you're having a brain fog. But since you're still getting sexual pleasure from the internet, your brain thinks that you are still winning. Basically, porn is conditioning your brain to be less active since you're using it to promote inactive behaviors. So now that you guys know what porn can do to your brain, this means that despite the negative consequence of uncontrolled self-pleasure, there are still some potential benefits. What are the benefits, you might ask? Whatever you want. Remember that your brain considers self-indulgence as a reward. Therefore, it will reinforce the reoccurrence of the actions that you did before reaching this reward. But be careful. This does not mean that you can simply just do productive things and fap from now on. That would be a huge mistake. Don't forget that your brain is still lazy from the years you spend unactivating it. Your brain will still choose the easiest method to receive the reward. You will stay in your habits of unproductivity if you do it the wrong way. This is because your brain will use the most effective way to receive the pleasure. And doing productive things is harder than doing nothing. So your brain have two choices. Either it's going to choose the instant reward or the one that you actually need to work for. And the answer is obvious. It's going to choose the ones that's instant. Does this mean that there's no way to use this concept to your advantage? No, this just means that the solution I'm going to give you guys is going to be very hard. Of course it will be. There's no easy way to do it. But the effort you're going to put into it, it's going to be more than worth it at the end. It will always feel like you want to give up. But remember this, that once you achieve to feel better, you will regret not doing this earlier. Yes, it will feel like the amount of time and effort is going to be too much. And it will take a lot of time. But think about it this way, if you don't fix it now, in 2 years, you're going to say the same thing. I want to change but it takes too much time. So if you know that in 2 years you would still want to change, then not doing it now is stupid. You're just gonna waste 3 more years. You don't need to go all out from the start. You will be overwhelmed and give up after 1 week. But that's not what we want. We want to play the long term. So start doing my solution slowly and go harder than last time when you can. But make sure to keep going forward. You will relapse. I'm 99% sure. But every time you fail, you will go harder the next time. So what is the solution I'm proposing? You need to start doing NoFap for the longest amount of time that you can to reset your brain. You need to tell your brain that the current depressive behavior is not getting any reward. For how long do you need to do it? Well, it depends on everybody, to be honest. With trial and error, you will get the hang of it. For the first few months, there's a high chance you will have a lot of highs and lows. You probably won't be stable, but it's like bending a metal plate. The only way to make it straight is to forcefully bend it the other way. So, you need to start removing fapping from your routine. You can't just start with masturbating once a week to reinforce positive behaviors. You need to start with a reset, or else your brain is just going to choose the easier path. And yes, while you're on NoFap, your mood will completely change. I'll talk about that on another video on how to manage that. This is also the reason I think that only doing NoFap is an incomplete solution. But for now, focus on doing NoFap. When you feel like your brain has a good mental reset, you can start doing it for positive reinforcement. But be careful. This does not mean that you can start operant conditioning as an excuse to fap more. If you do it too much, you will still fuck up your dopamine receptors, and your chances of rewarding negative behaviors on accident will dramatically increase. So make sure you only do it once, and maybe max 2 times per week after your mental reset. Only do it when you feel like you want to reward your current behaviors, and don't lie to yourself out of desperation. Be brutally honest with yourself if you deserve it or not. Please consider thinking critically about what I just said. If it makes sense for you, try it out. If not, don't. My other videos may make more sense to you, so don't forget to sub. And also, before I'm out of this video, I know that some of you guys are going to check the comment section to see if what I said works or not, and I understand more opinion can sometimes help us consider what choice we can choose from, but you have to remember that the things I'm talking about in these videos only have apparent effects after a while, so by the time these videos get into the YouTube algorithm, it will already be a few months after the video is posted. So you still need to wait for a very long time to see comments about people's experience with my solution, and in those people that will comment if it worked or not, there will be people that did what I suggested with thousands of different circumstances. So please use your own judgment, and this is Comfy Noodle, slurping out.